Beloved Country, Beloved Child, Letters to Nigeria from the Soul, by Jeffrey Zachary, for the broken-hearted patriot. For the dreamer, for the tired, for the faithful, for the ones who haven't given up, but are running out of words. Maybe what Nigeria needs now is not just reform, but remembering. Not more noise, but deep listening. Not just new leaders, but healed hearts. Part 1. The ache we don't name, acknowledging the wound, confronting the silence, witnessing pain without shame. Chapter 1. My country, my ache prompt. What unspoken grief do you carry for Nigeria? Poem, beloved country, I do not hate you, but I ache in your name. Not just in my heart, but in my blood, my breath, my sleep. I ache in long queues with no end, in silence during a blackout, in laughter that covers what no one can fix. I ache in the headlines that recycle sorrow, in the mother who shrinks her hunger for her child, in the graduate whose dreams die in daylight. This is not bitterness. This is bearing witness. I am your child, Nigeria. Not a prodigal, not a stranger, but the one who stayed. The one who still sings your name, though it tastes of rust and memory. There is a grief I do not name at parties. It lives under my small talk. It hums behind my prayers. It is the grief of knowing you were made for more. And yet here we are, still building futures and crumbling roads. Still asking, where does all the oil go? Where do our bright minds flee? Where does justice sleep while the powerful whine and dine on the backs of our silence? Beloved Nigeria, this grief is not a curse. It is a sign of love that refuses to lie. I have seen your beauty. I have danced in your reign. I have wept for your children, not just the lost, but the living, who do not know they are worthy. I carry you in my chest like a drum that will not stop. You are my ache. And because I still ache, I still believe. Reflection, soul whisper. We are told to be strong, to smile, to carry on. But strength without truth is denial, and silence is not healing, it is hiding. This chapter is not an accusation. It is an unveiling, a place to tell the truth about what it feels like to love Nigeria deeply and still grieve her, to walk her streets and feel both pride and pain, to sing her anthem and flinch at the lie of peace, to long for home even while standing in it. There is no shame in your ache. It means your heart is still beating. Let it beat. Soul insight. What unspoken grief do you carry for Nigeria? Not what's trending, not what's safe, but the ache that lives just under your laughter. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Let your truth stretch its legs. This is the first step toward remembering. Chapter 2. Before we learn to mistrust. Prompt. When did innocence break? Poem, beloved country. Do you remember when we still believed? When we waved flags without irony, stood still for the anthem, and trusted that those in uniforms were protectors, not predators. There was a time before we learned to mistrust, when the sound of sirens meant help, not bribes, when elections meant hope, not headlines of betrayal, when our teachers taught, not begged, when our leaders were flawed, but not thieves in tailored cloth. I was a child then, barefoot on red soil, believing that Nigeria was something sacred, not something stolen. We thought the green stood for promise, that the white meant peace. No one told us how easily flags fade and soak too long in tears. And then the fracture came. A missing child, a hushed conversation behind closed doors, a headline that didn't match what we saw, a soldier who slapped, a teacher who asked for something small, a neighbor who never came back. It wasn't loud, it was gradual, and then it was everywhere. So we stopped trusting, stopped asking, stopped dreaming aloud. We folded our innocence like old wrappers and placed it quietly beneath our tongues. And from that day on, we learned how to smile without believing, how to pray without expecting, how to plan our exits before our entries. Oh, Nigeria, you were once the wide-eyed girl in white socks, skipping to school with tomorrow folded neatly in her backpack. Now she walks carefully. Now she hides her name. But I still remember her. And so do you. Reflection, soul whisper. There is a grief that lives not in what we lost, but in when we first stopped believing, when we looked up and saw the cracks, when we learned that grown-ups lie, that systems don't save, that dreams are not protected by flags or prayers alone. But naming the moment is not about blame. It is about honoring the innocence that once existed and making space to reclaim it. You were not naive. You were open, and open hearts deserve remembrance. So let us return to that moment, not to stay, but to see clearly what must be healed. Soul insight. When did innocence break? For you? For your family? For your generation? Was it a strike? A raid? A sentence said too calmly by someone who should have protected you? Go back. Name the moment. Let the memory breathe. not to dwell, but to disarm its silence. Chapter 3. The Anthem That Chokes Me. Prompt. What line in our story feels like a lie? Poem, beloved country, I have tried to sing you with reverence, to place my palm to chest, to rise when the music calls. But there is a line in our anthem that always stops at my throat. Peace and unity. And every time I hear it, my spirit asks, for whom? Because I have seen bodies on the asphalt. I have seen tribes used as pawns. I have seen peace written in documents, but missing from streets, from homes, from the hearts of those who have learned to survive by distrust. What unity do we speak of when we bury names before we speak them? When we shout louder for our region, for our humanity, our anthem is beautiful. It is also bruised. We say, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. But we bind ourselves with silence and wire, with borders drawn in blood, with tongues taught to bite back truth. And so when the anthem plays, my mouth moves, but not always with belief. Not because I hate my country, but because I love her too much to lie. I want to sing it again, truly. I want to sing it with lungs that are not tired of protest, with a throat that has not swallowed too many names, with a chest that knows peace isn't a performance, it's a practice. But for now the anthem chokes me, and I listen in silence, not out of disrespect, but out of reverence for what we could still become. O Nigeria, may we one day earn the song we sing. May it ring true, not only in ceremonies, but in streets, in schools, in homes where no child is afraid to speak. Reflection, soul whisper. Some words we're taught to recite without question, without breath, without pause. But when the words no longer fit the wound, we must ask ourselves, is silence more honest than song? This is not rebellion. This is remembrance. This is the soul saying, I still believe, but I can't pretend. And that too is love. So if the anthem chokes you, you're not alone. You are awake. Soul insight. What line in our story feels like a lie? In the anthem, in our history, in promises made that never came to pass. Name it. Not to destroy, but to begin again with truth. Your honesty is not treason. It is the first thread in a new anthem still being written.